Hey, alright everyone, we are on to lesson 6, which is our second lesson for playing chords. The first lesson that we did, which was lesson 5 in this beginner ukulele series, was a C chord, an A chord, and a G chord. So hopefully you've practiced those and you can switch between them a little bit. And you've practiced both using your thumb and your fingernail. Okay, so that was a little review of last lesson, and now we are on to two more chords. One's pretty easy and one's a little tricky. So the first one's the F chord. If you have you ever tried to play guitar, the F chord is a really hard chord to play. It's your first bar chord, but in ukulele it's very easy. So it's your index finger on the second string of the first fret, and then your your middle finger on the fourth string of the second fret. So if you remember, an A chord is your index finger on the third string of the first fret, and your middle finger on the fourth string of the second fret. And for an F chord, you just move your index finger down one to that second string. So there you go. That's an F chord. Alright, and the next chord that we're going to play is a D chord. And a D chord is tricky because it's very cramped. So it's these top three strings of the second fret. And you can play those with your fingers, so you can actually put your ring finger on the second string, your middle finger on the third string, and your index finger on the top string. Okay, but that's very hard, for me at least. I've got big fat fingers. So what I like to do is to take my middle finger and press it on all three of those strings. And the trick is you got to keep the bottom one open. So if you can see that, it's kind of bent just on the top three strings, and then that bottom one is open. You'll probably do a lot of this at first. It'll sound like this if you're doing that, because this is not getting played because your finger's probably laying on it. But if you keep practicing it and working on it, it'll eventually come. I mean, when I first started playing, I did not have a good time with that D chord, but I really couldn't play it with my three fingers like that. But if it's easy for you to play it with putting your your ring finger on the second string, your middle finger on the third, and your index on the fourth, if you can actually play that and you play it well, then you can go ahead and do it that way. So we've got an F chord again and a D chord. Okay, so what you're going to do is the same thing you did on the last lesson. You're going to practice switching from the F chord and 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the D chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. F, D, F, D, and then you're going to use your fingernail. Same thing, F. And then you're also going to start playing your other chords along with that. So you can play the F and go to a C chord, and then to an A chord, and then to your G chord, and then go to your D, and back to F. So you're just going to work on those chords. That gives you 5 chords to know, and you're just going to keep practicing with the down. And then the next lesson we do, we're gonna learn a new strumming pattern. So that'll be good. Anyway, keep on practicing those chords. practice the changes in between them. And one thing I think I might have neglected to say in the first lesson and this lesson is, you know, when you play like the A chord, you got to make sure that you're not touching those other strings. So it's just the tips of your fingers on that, and same thing with the F chord, just the tips of your fingers. If you're touching some of the other strings, it's going to sound like this. It's going to sound kind of all wacky. So you want a nice clean sound. You want your fingers arched like that, curled up, you know, like curled up over the strings, and you want to make sure your palm or the other part of your hand is not touching the other strings. So if you're getting a weird sound on some of your chords, it might be because you're touching some of the other strings. Okay, so practice those, and we'll go on to the next lesson as soon as you're ready.